And Angelina Jolie is the UNHCR Goodwill Ambassador. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm so glad you're over in Pakistan, Angelina. You bring so much awareness to what's happening there. Why do you think people haven't paid as much attention to what's happening in Pakistan?
Well, I think it's complicated. I'm here with UNHCR, and they've been in this country for 32 years, and I've been here 4 times, and there's been 4 different reasons to come. There's one crisis after another. They've pretty much confronted every different type of disaster. I think that's one of the reasons. I think people have a fatigue in general when it comes to disaster relief. But if I can say that the thing that I've learned the most in being here is that we tend to focus on one issue at a time because that seems to be what people can absorb and care for. But Pakistan, as you know, is so complex because it has not just the people from the flood and the 18 million affected now, but it still has the 1.7 million Afghan people who are here, and they've been displaced from the flood. And whether or not developers take over that land and they are forced to go back prematurely to Afghanistan, these are very tricky things to deal with as well. On top of it, there's still a lot of rebuilding of infrastructure from the earthquake that happened, and then there's also internally displaced from the armed conflict. So there's so many different levels of reasons for displacement and in this country. So
I think that often, and you may have found this as well in your travels, that we tend to think of these places as over there, somewhere else, not here. But when you go, and I was there as well, I mean, you meet people. There are real faces and stories behind these crazy high numbers. Raymond and Zainul Gul are 2 people that you met. Tell me about them. How did you meet them? What did they tell you?
The older couple? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. The couple that I met?
Yeah, you met Raymond and Zainul Gul, I believe. Their house was devastated by the floods.
Yes.
What did they tell you? What did you learn from
them? We met. Well, I think they're so much. As we go to these places, and you always say the same things to the viewer, which is that they would be so moved if they were here, and it's so true. And if they met all these children who are so resilient and are still children and so full of life and love and hope, and it's always so moving. And this was very unique for me because I met this beautiful older couple who are in their 70s, and they'd worked their whole lives. And the man had been in the Pakistani military twice, and he had then lived off a pension, and with that small pension he'd built this home and his family and for his grandchildren, and it was very modest to begin with, but he had something, and now they're both dealing with a lot of sickness, and as you see, I believe in the tape, the woman is so embarrassed with her situation. And the man spoke of the fact that he never felt in his lifetime he's ever going to be able to recuperate what he's lost, that he would never ever have again nice things, that he would never have a nice bed, a nice house, and they had lived in this place since 1972 and raised their children and their grandchildren there, and in a moment, in a few hours, it was completely gone. And they're really good people, and really just kind, wonderful, hardworking older people who will pass away most likely in this mud-covered area, which is so covered with dirt, and there's feces in the river nearby, and it's so covered in flies, and it doesn't have the dignity that they deserve to live in, that anyone deserves to live in.
It's so heartbreaking to hear that, and I think it's almost more heartbreaking to hear that they're embarrassed to tell you about it. I don't know, how that should make somebody feel. I traveled through these camps, Angelina, where I saw these kids in their tents, in the situations that you're describing, doing their homework, and being a father as well. I don't know, it really got at me because they have dreams and aspirations and hopes, and those things are spread throughout the world evenly. Are you optimistic about the next generation of Pakistan? It is a young country and has been devastated so many times now, as you just mentioned.
I think we have no choice but to be optimistic and to have hope. I think if without that we're just lost and things deteriorate. I think it is this part of the world, they are resilient people. Think of all that they've been hit with, and they continue to move on, to rebuild, to trade, to educate, to learn, they're really trying, and they've fought through a lot, and they'll continue to fight through, and that goes for the Afghani people as well. So we have to support them, and also for all the people that are worried about conflict and this part of the world, and they feel like it's far away, or they're not sure, that they don't understand the corruption, or for all of this. The only way to make for a healthier, more hopeful, stronger Pakistan and Afghanistan is to help support education, is to help people, especially in this time of need, and to not just allow for more devastation and more desperation.
One thing that is worth pointing out as well, you're there right now, I just returned from there. This is ongoing. I think a lot of the reports would have you believe that this is somewhat over, but the way, the flooding continues in some of the parts of the south where I was most recently, there are places still being displaced. Have you gotten a sense of the scope of this? I mean, they say the size of the state of Florida or New England. How do you convey the scope of this to people back home?
I don't know how. You're better at that than I am. I'll say this, that I heard about it, and I thought I'm gonna see a lot of wet areas and tents and people that are, and what I saw was, if people can think about New Orleans and the scale of that and how devastating that is, and how there was so much before you could even rebuild, to clean up. There was so much that was full of toxic materials and death, and that is on a huge scale, and this is no different. That it has to be cleaned and cleared, and when I was standing in one of the houses, it was 9 feet tall, the water. It wasn't just suddenly this kind of flood that made everything wet for a few feet. It was 9 feet tall, and washed children away from right out of their parents' hands. It destroyed lives, and it's And as you say, it's very difficult to convey. It's very difficult to say to people in an interview, please care and please help. But I think, we're both thinking that, having been here and met these people, just to say, just remember they're people, they're family, they're lovely, lovely, hardworking people and beautiful children, and they deserve dignity and assistance, and we have to treat them with respect and try to preserve what we can of their livelihood and their future.
You've been in Pakistan a few times.